only a 7-game slate on this Monday around Major League Baseball, but still plenty to break down. We start this segment in Milwaukee, where the Brewers are the only team in the National League Central with a winning record at this moment. And the Brew Crew today booked as a home favorite back in Milwaukee, minus 116 on the money line. But the Blue Jays on the other side, not all that far away. It was a pick'em, now 14 cents of difference, minus 116 Brewers, minus 102 Blue Jays. Those are the money line numbers. Total at 8.5. What happens today between the Brew Crew and the Blue Jays?
Take a look at Jose Berrios on the mound here. Not too bad of a season. 128 batters, by the way, over the past 30 days. Decent numbers with ISO power here at a 157 and a weighted on base percentage of 302. The problem is he doesn't strike out a lot of batters, which means balls do get put into play. However, you take a look at the lineup that we're associated tonight with the Brewers against right-handed pitching over the past month. Hasn't been all of that great. Rhys Hoskins, 31 at-bats against right-handed pitching, a 259 ISO and a 380 weighted on base percentage. Probably the best of it here. But let's flip it over to the other side, because I do think this is an intriguing matchup. Colin Ray is going to be on the mound. If we take a look at the ISO power numbers and weighted on base percentages here, they're actually high over the past 30 days. A 190 ISO and a 347 weighted on base percentage if we include lefty and righty batters. But righties, he's been getting out at a pretty good clip. Lefties have been doing a lot of damage against him. But when we take a look at that roster here for the Toronto Blue Jays, it's always right-handed dominant. There'll be a couple lefties in the lineup today. Spencer Horwitz just got brought up here. No real statistics to go off of here with right-handed pitching as a lefty here. Dalton Varsho might be the best play in the lineup. 71 at-bats against right-handed pitching over the past month, Ben. A 338 ISO and a 342 weighted on base percentage. Now, having said that, 6 to 7 of these batters are plus against right-handed pitching, but also keep in mind, as I said, the lefties are doing the damage, and we don't have a lot of left-handed batters in this lineup tonight for Toronto. So something does have to give. I actually would give a slight bump here, though, to Toronto in this game. I think their lineup has a better capability of hitting, and I do think they have the better pitcher on the mound.
So when we look at Milwaukee, the Brew Crew swept last week in Philadelphia in their midweek set, then went to Detroit, won the first 2 games, lost the finale yesterday. Tarek Skubal continues to light it up. He is now really 8-1 with a 1.92 ERA, 10 Ks yesterday, and a 10-2 victory for the Tigers over the Brewers. But I'll make this point about Milwaukee. 6.5 game lead, 11 games above 500. And again, 6.5 game advantage in the National League Central. A lot of baseball left to play. The Reds playing better. The Cardinals finding their footing. Even the Pirates are pretty good. And can the Cubbies ever turn it around? We shall see. But Milwaukee is only being booked as a minus 180 favorite to win the National League Central. Yeah, it's still minus money. But when are we going to start to see the odds truly grow in Milwaukee's favor? I still think you're getting a pretty good price on the Brew Crew. Where is the fork as we enter this new week for the Houston Astros? They won the weekend set against the Angels in Anaheim. They keep it going now in California. Up to the Bay they go against the Giants, where Houston and Spencer Arrighetti booked as a slight favorite today by the Bay, total at 8.
Pure pitchers ballpark, not great pitchers on the mound, though. You take a look at Kyle Harrison on the season, a 162 ISO and a 342 weighted on base percentage, which isn't bad here. If you fast forward that over to the past 30 days, it does rise slightly at a 187 ISO and a 384 weighted on base percentage. Right-handed batters getting the best of him. He is a left-handed pitcher. 93 batters that he's faced over the past month, a 205 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 389. If you look at the lineup, it looks decent here for the Houston Astros. A lot of right-handers will be in that lineup. The only lefty predicted, which would be Yordan Alvarez. So I do think they have a legitimate shot on their end. If we flip it over to the other side, Spencer Arrighetti, who opened up the season not very good at all, but over the past 30 days, he's been much better, Ben. 111 batters, he's faced an ISO of 074 and a weighted on base percentage of 294. You know that lineup for the Giants isn't really all that great. So if we're saying to ourselves, all right, Arrighetti is going to be on the road, so you get a little bit of a downgrade. But again, it's a true pitcher's ballpark as opposed to where he usually pitches down in Houston, which is the hitter's ballpark. Give me a slight lean towards the Houston Astros in this game, as maybe that fork continues to stay out of them here.
Right now, a slight favorite, and to Donnie's point, Arrighetti has been much better in the last 2 weeks, pretty much the last month for Houston. And we know the Astros need all the pitching help they can get with the injuries starting to stack up for that H-Town staff. Now we go to the only team in the American League West that is above 500. That's the Seattle Mariners. In fact, the only team in the AL West that is 3 games below 500 or better. The Seattle Mariners at minus 210 right now, a hefty favorite. against MLB's worst team, the Chicago White Sox, who did snap a 14-game losing skid this weekend against the Red Sox. They actually split the weekend series, a 4-game set in the Battle of the Sox, but still the only team in Major League Baseball to not reach the 20-win threshold. They only have 17 at this moment. Should it be an easy Monday start for the M's?
I don't know if it's going to be that easy, and I don't know if that price point is all that warranted, because let's take a look. Logan Gilbert's a very good pitcher, and where are they playing at? In Seattle, which is notorious for being a true pitcher's ballpark. But having said that, Luis Roberts back in the lineup, hitting very well right out of the gate. Paul DeJong has been absolutely sensational over the past month against right-handed pitching, a 300 ISO and a 392 weighted on base percentage. Now, as I said, you do have some good splits there for Logan Gilbert. One of those guys in Major League Baseball over the past couple years, particularly with the Washington Nationals that you love to fade, was Eric Fedde. But take a look at his seasonal numbers here, Ben. 311 batters he's faced, a 133 ISO and a 291 weighted on base percentage. That actually has improved over the past month to an 088 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 279. That's not a great hitting lineup for Seattle today. You probably will be looking more towards the under, but this might be a sneaky chance to take the White Sox at close to a 2-1 price here.
Yeah, the team with the third worst record in Major League Baseball, that's the Colorado Rockies. They have 23 wins, but they're a hefty underdog on the road today in Minnesota. The Twins a minus 230 home money line favorite. Over-under is 8. What happens today in Minneapolis?
Yeah, one of the more talented players on the Rockies, I believe, went to the IL yesterday with Rogers, so already an incomplete lineup that's going to show up. But Chris Paddock, you take a look at the Minnesota Twins as a favorite in this game. Yeah. Not all that great on the mound. Last month here, 119 batters faced, close to a 200 on his ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage right around average at 322. The question is going to be is what performance are we going to get out of Dakota Hudson here? 117 batters he's faced, Ben, actually pretty good at a 127 ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage of 295. But he does get dominated by left-handed bats. The only question is how many lefties are going to be in the lineup today for those Minnesota Twins. Tough price point there.
Donnie, you mentioned this Monday slate, short, albeit not your favorite in just 7 games. Maybe some plus money sprinkles in a best bet next. Only 7 games on this Monday MLB slate, and 3 of the 7 feature a team that is greater than a $2 favorite. Might we see some plus money sprinkles? Donnie just kind of broke it down where the 2 previous $2 favorites in Minnesota, the Twins against the Rocks, maybe not deserving of it. And in Seattle, the Mariners against the worst team in MLB, that's the Chicago White Sox. Donnie's not sure that in that game the Mariners are deserving of that $2 price. What about in San Diego in the California contest between the Athletics and the Padres? The Pods minus 220, but below 500 this season.
Yeah, this might be a sneaky total to the over game, even though some of these offenses might be better off against some different matchups. Take a look at Estes on the mound today. 107 batters he's faced over the past 30 days. You take a look at his ISO power number, 182, and a weighted on base percentage of 277. It's not all that bad, but he does get damaged a bit by left-handed batters. The only question, again, is going to be how many lefties will we see from San Diego tonight? Looks like a Rise, Profar, Cronenworth, Peralta, and Merrill. So 5 out of the 9 batters he anticipated to be from the left side. That might be a little sneaky there. And also Oakland on the other side. Dylan Cease is on the mound. You take a look at his seasonal statistics through 305 batters he's faced. It's very good, Ben, at a 138 ISO with a weighted on base percentage of 255. But let's just go in the last 30 days and have a 120 batter view. 207 ISO, 347 weighted on base percentage. The lineup doesn't present all that well for Oakland, but both lefty batters and righty batters are getting the best of Dylan Cease over the past month here. J.J. Bleday, who late in the game yesterday cashed an RBI prop for me, he's the best in that lineup. 92 at-bats against right-handed pitching over the past month, 259 ISO, 352 weighted on base percentage. Even though the numbers don't show all that great for either one of these lineups, I think these 2 pitchers can be hit tonight, and maybe a total looks like that should be in the cards.
I mean, it's just 7, right? I think that 7 is baking in that Dylan Cease gets the start for San Diego, who has been good for a good majority of this MLB campaign. But it really is fascinating in the National League West, where the Dodgers have been dominant. They've won the divisional crown 10 of the last 11 years. And this year they were booked as a heavy favorite, of course, with all that they did this offseason. Greater than a $6 favorite to begin this year, minus 600 to win the National League West. Now it's even more than that, as the Dodgers have an 8-game lead, and nobody else in the division is above 500 except for LA.